story. Pence, you'll remember, was the governor of Indiana back when Buttigieg became mayor of South Bend. As Buttigieg has suggested recently, this set the two of them on a collision course. Pete Buttigieg is gay. Pence is a traditional Christian, meaning that he pines for the social structure of the 12th century and, above all, hates gay people passionately. How much does Pence hate gay people? Watch this explosive exchange from 2015. Pence was asked directly about Pete Buttigieg. You can see the rage in his eyes, the venom that flecks his lips. Mike Pence looks dangerous. Brace yourself for this.
I hold Mayor Buttigieg in the highest personal regard. We have a great working relationship, and I see him as a dedicated public servant and a patriot.
Whoa. Could you feel the hate radiating from that man? Highest personal regard. In other words, away from me, sinner, you are filthy and repulsive. Great working relationship, says Mike Pence. Sure. Among evangelicals, that's well-known code for, once I establish my theocracy, I will throw you in my dungeon and let you rot for eternity. Dedicated public servant. Patriot. Oh, please. Pence might as well have spit in Buttigieg's face and called him a reprobate. It's the same thing. It's gay bashing. Now, Buttigieg responded to attacks like these, as you'd expect. He warmly gave Governor Pence an I Love South Bend t-shirt and joined him on a fitness walk. Buttigieg wrote about the whole thing on Facebook if you want to read the unnerving details sometimes. To this day, he seems traumatized by his experiences with Mike Pence. Buttigieg recently told a crowd in Austin to, quote, not judge my state by our former governor. He accused Mike Pence of social extremism. He called him a cheerleader of the porn star presidency. On CNN, Buttigieg even suggested that God himself disapproves of Mike Pence.
My marriage to Chasten has made me a better man. And yes, Mr. Vice President, it has moved me closer to God. And that's the thing I wish the Mike Pences of the world would understand. That if you got a problem with who I am, your problem is not with me. Your quarrel, sir, is with my Creator.
Don't think that was written by consultants at all. Well, you can imagine how Mike Pence responded to an attack like that. When you call out a man as hateful as Mike Pence, what do you get in return? I hate tsunami. And that's exactly what Mike Pence delivered. Watch this.
I've known Mayor Pete for many years. We worked very closely together when I was governor, and I considered him a friend. He knows I don't have a problem with him.
Damn those evangelicals. When are they going to learn to love their enemies as the Bible commands? Pete Buttigieg, by contrast, is an Episcopalian. So he expresses his Christian faith by defending late-term abortion and relentlessly attacking people who have been kind to him. It's more effective than talking about the city he leads. In 2015, South Bend's murder rate was almost the same as Chicago's. Aggravated assaults more than tripled since Buttigieg became mayor. Rapes have nearly doubled. But Pete Buttigieg doesn't want to talk about any of that. He wants to talk about the real victim here, himself. Chadwick Moore is a journalist in New York, and he joins us tonight. Chadwick, I guess what frustrates me is that Pete Buttigieg is exactly what our system produces at the top end. In other words, he's the greatest success you can be in our society. He went to Harvard and was a Rhodes Scholar and worked at McKinsey, and now he's running for president at a young age. How in the world can he be a victim?
Yeah, the way he speaks about the vice president, you'd think that the Sultan of Brunei was holding the office. Of course, he won't acknowledge the true enemies of gay people in this world. Unlike the present administration, which I might add, as you know, the administration has announced an effort to work to decriminalize homosexuality around the globe. Vice President Pence is behind this. He has stood behind this. And it's spearheaded by Ambassador Rick Grinnell, who's been out of the closet for decades, who's dedicated his entire life to gay rights. And Pete Buttigieg has done nothing for gay people except for perhaps marry one of them. After all, he's only been out of the closet for about 4 years. So it's interesting that, as you had pointed out, these two had a working relationship for years in South Bend, or in Indiana. And while not during 2015, 2016, 2017, all of those years, Pete Buttigieg never once was offended by Mike Pence, never called him a bigot, never called him a hate monger. And then suddenly, in the last 2 weeks, it's all he can talk about. What could possibly be going on? Oh, well, it's fundraising season. So he has to push this hate hoax about Mike Pence being a bigot, which he does not believe himself. He does not believe that that Pence is a bigot. He's not offended by Mike Pence, but he's got to pay his woke penance. He's got to sell himself as being woke and appease himself to journalists and the most unhinged activists on his side. It's really one of the most gross things that politicians do on a regular basis.
Well, it diminishes everybody, including the person doing it. So you want to be president, tell me how you're going to improve my life. Stop whining, privileged guy. By the way, again, how disgusting is it to watch the most privileged people talk about how they're oppressed? I mean, it's actually stomach-turning to me. But this is the whole game in left-wing politics right now, is it not? You used to be a liberal. You tell me.
It completely is, and I can't believe that they still believe this works. You know, imagine for 1 second if Pete Buttigieg had said, you know what, if he stood up and was courageous and said, let me be honest about Mike Pence, people are lying to you about him, and we just simply have a disagreement.
Right.
He would have stand out as courageous and a free thinker, the same thing that made Donald Trump stand out in 2016.
Exactly.
He went against the grain. But these people are so out of touch. They don't understand why, they still don't understand why President Trump won, which is why they deluded themselves with the Russia probe. And it was one of those reasons. He was honest, a straight talker, and people knew they weren't being led astray. They knew he wouldn't say something that he didn't believe in. With Pete Buttigieg, it's just more of the same. It's incredible that he thinks this is a good idea and just going with the herd. They have learned absolutely nothing.
If he had done that, if he had come out and said, look, I disagree with Pence on all kinds of things, but I'm from Indiana, I know the guy, and I think anyone who's ever met Pence or knows him can vouch. Whatever you think of Pence, you could despise Pence's views. He's certainly not seething with hate. He's just the opposite, actually. He's a very kind of gentle, meek character. If he'd said that, like, what would be the downside? He'd probably win the nomination, right? Or
well, he could actually. I mean, I think you're right that he could win the nomination if he had done that. But they have to invent these villains because the truth, especially about this issue, the truth about evangelicals and homosexuality is so boring. The argument is so boring. It's so tame and so reasonable. They have to turn into something full of fear and sensationalism. You know, the truth being essentially ask 9 out of 10 Christians in this country who are against gay marriage, and they would tell you, no, I think the couples should have the same civil rights. We just don't like the word marriage being used because of what our faith says. You know, bring a book, snooze. We'd much rather have someone saying he hates you, wants to destroy your life, and turn you into a second-class citizen.
But why is it Christians, though? I mean, Christianity is not the only world religion, not even the only Abrahamic faith with these positions on sexual ethics, including gay rights. I mean, you have at least 2 others that have very similar positions, but it's only the Christians who are ever called out on this. Why is that, I wonder?
I think it's they despise Christianity because America is founded on Christian values. It's a Christian nation. You know, these kind of lefties don't like any kind of religion, but they choose Islam because the enemy of their friend is their friend. So they'll stand up for the most hateful, intolerant, in places of the world, obviously not all Muslims, but the most hateful, intolerant religion on earth, where, you know, every single nation where gays are murdered, there's 7 of them. It ain't Indiana Christians who are running those nations, Mayor Buttigieg. No, it's not. I don't think. We may have to look into it. I'm a journalist, so I'm not very knowledgeable about things.
I thought it was the Assemblies of God people doing that. But you know what? I'm going to get to Google in the commercial break and confirm if you were right or not.
It's the radical Amish that are doing it.
As always. Jeff McMoore, great to see you. Thank you.
Thanks, you too.
Well, you just heard Pete Buttigieg competing to become the country's victim in chief, but they don't